Hi, Wheatland family. It is good to be coming to you again this week for another weekly video. And as you will see in a minute, when Luke is absent and not able to do these, it takes two of us to get this job done this morning. So one of the things that we have tried to do with these videos is to connect you with some of our volunteers and some of our staff who are vital to our life together, particularly in these times of isolation during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've done that with looking at mercy ministry and children and families. And now this week, we're going to be talking to you and with Samuel Spatola. As many of you probably know, Samuel Spatola is our Director of Student Ministries and Outreach at Wheatland. He's been doing that for about a year and a half now. And as being the Director of Student Ministries, particularly Student Ministries, Samuel has this window into how our students are experiencing and affected by the isolation and the disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I am going to invite Samuel into this conversation, and then we'll get started with him.
Hello.
Hey, Samuel.
Hey.
So glad to have you here this morning and talk with you a bit about student ministries at Wheatland, and particularly student ministries as we move through this COVID-19 pandemic. I have a couple questions for you. A few weeks ago, as you know, we talked with Kristen Zimmerman about children and families and how it's affected parents and particularly younger children during the pandemic. But I wanted to ask you to share with us some ways that you found our students, particularly middle school and high school students, as you're interacting with them, how they've been impacted by this time.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think some of the bigger things that they're fighting are just having their schedule completely upended, and kind of almost overnight, the plans they had for the spring and going even into the summer have been completely changed or canceled altogether. And so that's a big thing. They miss their friends. They're far from friends. Some of them are fighting boredom. I think the biggest thing is probably for the high schoolers, and especially the seniors. A lot of the high schoolers involved in musicals or sports or other spring activities, and all those obviously have been canceled. And so they've experienced, I think, real loss with that. And then especially our four graduating students, our seniors, they've unfortunately miss out on some pretty big milestones in their young lives, such as graduation and prom and banquets and all that stuff that goes at the end of the year. And so, yeah, those are probably the biggest things. I think just distance from friends, boredom, and then a lot of those big milestones that they miss out on, or I think things that they have lost and are definitely feeling.
Yeah, as you've interacted with students, what are things that you and also your volunteers have done to try to keep engagement as much as possible, keep engagement? And also, have you found that students themselves have been proactive or tried their best to stay engaged with one another and encourage each other?
Yeah. I'll answer first, or the second half of that first. Yeah, students definitely have kept in touch. Digital technology being what it is, and especially like social media platforms have been super useful for that. So they FaceTime, they use other social media platforms to stay connected, and so they definitely have stayed in each other's lives. And then as volunteers and as a student ministry, we've continued to meet. And so what we've done, I think about 2 weeks into the pandemic, we began meeting over Zoom. And so Sunday evenings at the same time, though in different places, we've continued to meet over Zoom, just like we're doing right now. And so there's many squares with people's names and faces on it, and we video chat and try to do as much of what we would normally do during youth group together over Zoom. And so we have kind of a catch-up time and just kind of checking in with people and seeing what's going on. And then we've done games some weeks. And then we're actually able to continue our study through the Gospel of John. And so we've been working through that. And then after I do a talk, we go into our small groups, and Zoom actually has a feature in which you can break people into groups, and we have our small group time over Zoom, and then after that's over, we reconvene and kind of close off all together. And so it's an imperfect medium, but it has, I think, been a pretty good kind of band-aid for the time being. But we're definitely craving being back together and physically back together.
Yeah, it's interesting as you talk. I think in some ways, generation, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and even into young adults, like they've been training for this time where so much of interaction is now over some other media rather than face to face. But at the same time, just because they have experience in this doesn't mean that it's not affecting them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I think that's right. And I think it's, from one perspective, like you said, this has been their life's work. They've been trained their whole lives for this. And so a lot of students do online schooling as it is. And so they're very used to video conferencing and meeting like this. And so in terms of just understanding the technology and leveraging it pretty well, like they're great at that. I think this time has served, though, to show them that just the importance, I think, of embodied presence or being physically in front of someone else. And I think if there's one positive thing coming out of this is that I think they will value that more. And I think that's the case even for adults. But yeah, I think it's been, I think what you say is right.
Yeah. So we're coming up on the summer. We're basically into the summer. Do you have summer plans? I'm sure they've been affected in many ways, and maybe there's still uncertainty because we're not knowing specifically as a church what we're doing. What are some things you've done in the summer before to engage students, and what are your plans now?
Yeah, so normally throughout the school year, we meet on Sunday evenings from 6:30 to about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Last summer, we started meeting midweek, and that seemed to work better for a lot of students. And so what I'm hoping to do as soon as we begin activity back on campus here, the youth ministry will essentially just mirror that, and we'll start meeting on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. here on the campus. And it'll be modified and all that in terms of just how we interact with each other, and we'll follow all the protocols that are necessary and wise. But yes, we plan on meeting back on campus as soon as we are able to. And what we do in the summers is we invite the rising seventh graders, so those who are just finishing sixth grade, going into seventh grade, to start attending and become part of Roots and what we do on, in this case, Wednesday nights, but ultimately on Sunday nights. And so it's a good time if you have, if you're parents or if you are a seventh grader or a rising seventh grader, this is a perfect time for you to start coming out to youth group and getting to know the other students and become part of Roots. And so we plan on doing that. And then as much as possible, we'll have activities and other things throughout the summer. I'm still kind of waiting on that and seeing what kind of mobility and kind of liberties we'll have just as people living in this county. So yeah, so those are the main plans for now.
Yeah, well, we, as you know, we're really grateful for your work. It's youth ministry, student ministries at Wheatland has always been a further support system for families, not seen as this separate thing out here doing its own thing, but that this is part of the body of Christ, and we are another support system for parents and for students. And so it's, I imagine, and I'm hopeful that it's encouraging for students and parents to know that even in the midst of this, they do have this community, that they are still gathering on Sunday nights and still interacting with one another, even if it's virtually and through a camera and a screen, as awkward as that may or may not be for them. But so thanks for coming on, Samuel.
Welcome.
Family, we just want you to know that we are praying for you. I'm praying for you. Samuel is as well. Luke, our elders are praying for you. Our deacons and deaconesses, our care group leaders, we are all continuing to pray that God would sustain us in these days and through these times. And we encourage you to be reaching out to us and reaching out to one another if you are in difficulty and in need of just a phone call or in need of social interaction. We're thankful for our Sunday morning worship live stream, but we also understand that it still leaves you wanting more. And so we're here to talk with you and even to meet with you on the porch or on your front porch or however you feel safe to do so. So we look forward to seeing you this Sunday on our live stream at 10:45.